Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This is going to be a jolting live stream. And I jokingly typed that because the electrical company just left my house a short while ago. We have been having some power issues in one part of the house, and so we had some guys here doing some electrical work, and then I went to go turn on a switch in another part of the house, and there was no power there. So I thought it would be funny if I did a live stream to talk about a couple of shocking things, one of which is the fact that I don't have power in a bathroom. That is like part one. There was another thing that I wanted to talk about, and then as I was getting ready to go live here, something else happened that we will also talk about as well. Shout out to Key Collector app for keeping us in the know on what is actually happening out there in the comic book community. And I just got an alert from them that we'll spend a couple of minutes talking about here in just a hot second. Let me say hello to some comic book soldiers that have joined me here in the room. Wes is in here. It's good to see you. Juggernaut is in here. Scrolling down, Randy Snake. How you doing, brother? It is good to see you, my friend. Who else do we have in here? Mr. DC is here. It's good to see you. Welcome. I think I saw Matt Woods there as well. It is good to see you guys. James Howard is in here. Game Face. How you doing? My man Vika Closet Geek. I think that is actually the power company calling me right now, calling me back. And I'm like, I told you that I had a meeting. And by meeting, I have a live stream. Tony Trevetta is in here. It's good to see you. Brian is in here. My man, super honorable nephew, the dude with 12 copies of the Regie Collects variant. So I still have people reaching out to me like, hey, Reggie, so what is that on your back wall? What comic do you have 8 copies of that is signed? Whose comic is that? And every time I'm like, it's this guy named Reggie. But believe it or not, people still, for reasons, because people are busy, right? People still don't have full awareness of the fact that we actually came up with the variant. So yeah, we're keeping it up on the wall, man, for as long as we can. At some point, I'm going to have to fulfill these orders out to people that have yellow labels and blue labels. So we'll be taking some of those down to be able to fulfill orders. Fingers crossed that I at least leave myself a couple of copies back there. But I definitely want to welcome you guys to the live stream. I'm not going to stretch this one out and make it a long one before I actually get to some of the news. But I think that it was pretty fly for a Filipino guy that sent me a message. That comic book soldier reporter is always on the grind. So he sent me a message, and then very shortly after that, Mikey Sutton also sent me a message. You guys know Pretty Fly. I talk about him a fair bit. And then Mikey Sutton is the leaker of leaks. This dude is spilling tea everywhere to keep people in the loop as to what's going on. And while this was not his news break, someone else actually had the news break. There is something relevant there for him as well that we will probably talk about over the course of this thing. But the shocking news, hint, hint, shocking news is that Electro is going to be back in an upcoming Spider-Man movie, and it's going to be played by none other than this guy right here, Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx is going to be reprising his role as Electro in the upcoming Amazing Spider-Man movie. And I guess that they are in final talks and things like that for him to reprise his role. But the fact that this is out there, the fact that it's in the Hollywood Reporter gives me some comfort, if you will, that this thing is actually going to happen. And so you can see, some of the details here on screen, that this is actually the second time that Jamie Foxx has actually played Electro. He actually did it back in 2014 in Amazing Spider-Man #2, which starred Garfield, a different type of Peter Parker, as Spider-Man. And they say here that the movie failed to impress critics and underperformed at the box office with roughly or $709 million globally. That's disappointing, but I'll be honest with you. I'll take 10% and I'll call it even because that is a ton of money. But yeah, it underperformed even at that very high number. I'm not quite sure what the movie cost, but this failure, if you will, actually paved the way for Sony to actually strike a deal with Marvel. And that's why we ended up seeing Tony appear in Sony movies. And that's why we ended up ultimately seeing the character that played Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man, show up in the MCU. So a lot of really interesting changes, a lot of interesting developments here that are actually happening. I do like some Jamie Foxx. And I think there's a section down here where they actually talk about what he's doing right now. Jamie Foxx, that is. He's in this show called Project Power. If you guys haven't seen this movie called Project Power on Netflix, check it out. It is actually a pretty solid movie. I watched it maybe 2 weeks ago on like a humble, and it turned out to be pretty good. And it's like, you know, Jamie's Jamie, you know, in many ways, Jamie is always Jamie, no matter what he's playing in. But this Project Power was actually pretty good. It was a pretty good show. It's on Netflix. If you get a chance, check it out. But he is definitely staying busy, right? There are still the rumors that he is going to be playing Spawn, but he is certainly not resting on his laurels, and he is keeping himself active in this superhero game. If all of the rumors are true, right? He is definitely keeping his name out there. Now, here's the thing. There are a lot of people that believe, based upon what is happening right now, that we are going to be seeing the Sinister Six. We are going to be seeing the Sinister Six at some point in the Sony movie. So there's a tremendous amount of excitement about that. The other thing, and this is where Mikey Sutton actually comes in. Mikey Sutton, I can't remember what he said. Maybe it was last year, earlier this year. I can't exactly recall, but he made note that there was going to probably be an overlap of the various people that have played Spider-Man at some point in the future. And let me see if I can find his message to me, because that way I can actually get some of the facts. Some of the facts right. He said, I scooped last year that Garfield and Maguire will meet Holland in a live action Spider-Verse movie. So essentially, he's basically saying that the three people that have played Spider-Man in recent history are all in some way or another going to come together in one movie. And in his mind, what is happening right now with the actor that plays J. Jonah Jameson, and the fact that Jamie Foxx is coming back as Electro, is a sign that this collaborative movie is actually going to happen, where the three Spider-Men are potentially going to meet up in a live action movie, because the guy that played J. Jonah Jameson was in another movie, right? He was not in the current iteration with the current actor that is playing Spider-Man. He was in one of the previous, same with Jamie Foxx. And now all roads start to be, you know, aiming towards what Mikey Sutton is rumored to have leaked. And so we will see whether this proves to be true or not. Again, my big thing is keep making all the wonderful movies that you can make. If they are good, people will show up and people will continue to be entertained by them. But yeah, that is the news for today. So what is this? I thought Jamie was good. Yeah, the thing is that I think Jamie is still going to play Spawn. The challenge, however, I think for Todd McFarlane is that he wants to direct the movie. He wants to direct the movie, and he's never directed anything of this sort before. So trying to find somebody that is going to give him whatever his budget happens to be, it might be tough, right? He may be able to do it, because with Todd, man, you say he can't do it or whatever, and his thing is he's going to prove you wrong, you know. But he is probably going to need a large sum of money in order to bring this movie to life. He is not a proven director, and so that is probably part of the hesitation, right? And if you listen to him talk about what he wants to do with Spawn, his thing is he doesn't want Spawn to be a man in a suit. He wants Spawn to be a little bit more abstract than that, which in my mind means, you know, high-end CGI or whatever it is that they do to do special effects these days, right? That to me implies money. You need some money to make that work and to make it look real and to be authentic and to be this horror movie that he essentially wants Spawn to be. So only time will tell. And my thing is this: Jamie's not going to sit around and wait for the Spawn movie. I think, you know, it's kind of like he and Todd McFarlane have had conversations. It's probably going to happen, but it's going to take Todd time to line it up, to line the money up, to make that magic happen. So I love Jamie Foxx, but he looked terrible. Well, so here's the thing. It was a Fox production. I mean, not a Fox production. It was a Sony production. Fox would have been worse, but it's a Sony production, right? And so what is happening right now with this overlap, if you will, between Sony and the MCU with Kevin Feige's involvement, in my head, the production and the quality of this movie is probably going to be better, right? Because Kevin Feige doesn't really put out any trash. And let me see if I can find this section here. Let me see. Starring Tom Holland and being made by Marvel Studios in Sony production. So this is definitely a collaborative project that they are actually doing. And who is it? It says Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal, I think that's her name, are both producing this thing. So again, when cameras start to roll in Atlanta this fall, there's the expectation that all of these people that have been rumored to be in this movie will indeed be in this movie. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. And in my head, if people were not happy with the quality of the previous movie, Amazing Spider-Man, which is why it only made $700 million, with Kevin Feige's involvement, the production can only get better. So we will see. Really wasn't thrilled with Electro and ASM, but probably more because the writing wasn't great. There you go. Daryl, how you doing, brother? It's good to see you, Daryl. And you are probably right about that. It's probably a combination of some of the things that you guys are talking about right now. Barely makes the budget for Spider-Man movie. There you go. Love Jamie Foxx, but his character was a campy villain. Kiss of death for a superhero film, says Doug. I respect it. And again, you guys are much more knowledgeable about some of this movie stuff than I, which is why I typically don't talk about movies, because I barely remember the name of any celebrity. So, but again, this was a cool thing that I at least wanted to talk about, because I just recently filmed a video in which I actually showed the first appearance of Electro. So this is kind of like on my mind. I just did my Electro book. The electricians were just here. Then Jamie Foxx. You know, so there's a theme. There is a theme here that I'm playing out. What is this? They need a new supervillain that can sing to take full advantage of his talents. Scroll. Oh, there you go. Are there any villains that sing? Because the dude is like, Jamie Foxx is like a triple threat, right? I mean, he's an act. Well, he's multi-talented, right? Because he's an actor. He's somewhat comedic. He can sing, he can play instruments, he can act, right? The guy has a couple of different talents on there. So scrolling through some of the comments here. What is this? Bayou says, I wouldn't put my money in movies right now with the current situation we're in. Theaters aren't going to be the same for a while, but theaters are indeed open, and theaters are not the only pathway to make magic happen. And again, if they're not even shooting into the fall, I don't know if it's the fall of this year or the fall of next year, you still have production time and all of that other stuff. So it's not like this movie is going to be released next week. That is not what we're saying here. There is definitely going to be some time for all of this stuff to happen. Sharp Fusion, how you doing? Welcome to the live stream. I'm glad that you were able to make it in here. Scrolling down through the comments here, seeing what else you guys are talking about. Do not ruin my news 202 New Age investments. Do not ruin my So here, let's go ahead and talk about this, because somebody's trying to ruin my fun. No, I'm joking. I am totally joking. So here was the other little piece of news that I wanted to share with you guys right now. Is this is actually something that came out from Key Collector App. So this is not something that I found. It actually found me, right? So shout out to Key Collector App for putting out some fantastic content. So what they just announced is that Scout Comics, which is heavily affiliated with Comic Tom, just signed with Mosaic. And it says, after recently signing a distribution deal with Simon & Schuster, Scout Comics has now partnered with Mosaic Entertainment for film, TV, and streaming opportunities. The properties in this deal are listed below. So it's like Unicorn and Hinch Girl, Solar Flare, Loot Ashcan, Murder Hobo, few other things that are in here. None of these are ones that I recognize. I recognize none of those. But again, wanted to kind of share that information with you guys. Again, what's important here is a couple of things. Just because they signed a deal does not mean that any of this stuff is ever going to be made into a movie, a TV show, or appear on a streaming service, right? So let's just put that out there, right? Just because a deal has been signed just because a property has been optioned does not mean that anything will ever be seen, right? So just please keep that in mind. Do not rush over to the eBays and start spending money on Scout Comics unless you are a fan of these comics and were intending to buy them already. Wait to see what's going to happen, because I don't even know who Mosaic is. I'm going to be completely honest, right? It's not like Paramount or Sony or Netflix or something like that. I have no clue who Mosaic is. But this was one of those things where I wanted to go live, wanted to talk about something. This happened. So I wanted to share it with you guys, so you guys had the knowledge. And again, if you aren't using Key Collector app, you definitely want to check those guys out, because they do a good job. They are not perfect. None of us are, but they provide a really fantastic service for people. So we scroll down to the bottom here. Spider-Man the musical. Oh man, Spider-Man the musical, starring Jamie Foxx as Electro, hits Broadway. Well done, Doug. Well done, brother. What is this? Obviously, you didn't see his comedy, I Might Need Security. Man, I like Jamie. I like Jamie, but he's no Kevin Hart. He's no Eddie Murphy. He's no Richard Pryor. Funny guy, talented guy, don't get me wrong, but some of those other aforementioned guys are killing the game, Where do we get your variant? So the only place to get the variant right now is my website, so regiecollects.com. The only version of the variant that is presently available right now are the raw copies. So you can actually purchase raw unsigned copies of the variant from my website, regiecollects.com. The yellow labels are pretty much sold out at this point. The blue labels are still in the process of being processed by CGC. And as soon as those are received, I'll be processing all blue label orders and all blue label, yellow label orders, because some people order both of those books. And then once those orders are out the door, the remaining blue labels will be put onto the website. And just for full context, all yellow labels are 9.8s, all blue labels are 9.8s. So there you go. And then the raw copies, I tried as best I could to make sure that all of them were higher grade raw copies. So just, again, full transparency with some of that information for you guys. All right. So let me see. Ralph is saying here that the White Ash Can 6 comic series was great from Scout. So I think we are still saying hobo. Deal was signed for yeah, exactly. So there was a deal that was signed, and I actually talked about this deal with Atlas Comics. They actually signed with Paramount, if memory serves, like 8 months ago, something like that. And I covered that. And at the time, I bought a lot of those Atlas comics, partly because of nostalgia, but also because I was reading a lot of that stuff at the same time. But just like anything else, right, it always takes time for the deals to be signed, and then for an evaluation of like, what do we really have here and what can we really do with this stuff, right? Because even if you have a character and even if you have all of this rich history and content from the comic, you don't just do a direct lift of the comic, right? You have to sort out, okay, so are we making a standalone movie? Are we making a universe? Are we making multiple movies? Is there going to be a thread that's going to run through them? Okay, so what is the screenplay, right? So there's a lot of work that has to be done. So the fact that we haven't heard anything yet doesn't mean that we won't, but it also doesn't mean that we will. So just full transparency, right? Full transparency. And thank you for bringing up Atlas and Paramount, because that is legit. I mean, look at the deals that have been signed with Rob Liefeld, right? He was signed for what, a 7-figure deal with Netflix, and that evaporated and that deal went completely away. So you never know. You never know what's going to happen. There you go. Daryl's like, don't put your money on it until a trailer drops, or if you can get it for like a couple of dollars. Like if you can get it for a couple of dollars and you have an interest in it, do it. If you were planning to buy it already, do it. But don't do it for the purpose of speculation, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Jamie Foxx isn't Tom Hardy. Let me scroll through some of the comments here. Telling me to read that one. I may, man. This was truly the first Scout book that I even really truly purchased in a comic shop. It eats what feeds it. I got this the other day. I read it. I was not blown away by the artwork, but I thought the story was actually pretty good. So this is essentially the extent of my Scout Comics adventure. But I may read more stuff, man. I may read more stuff. So we will see. Scrolling down, Jamie he was indeed great in that. In full transparency, Robert, excellent point. He did a fantastic Ray Charles. He really did, but in my mind, Jamie is a good actor, but for me, he's like no Denzel or no Samuel L. And there's many other actors out there where, in my opinion, when I see them, I forget that they're themselves, because they become that character and you stop seeing them as who they really are because they're so immersed in it and they have that talent. I don't necessarily get that way about Jamie Foxx, and I'm not trying to discredit him. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. He's a good actor, but he's not that kind of actor to me where I forget that that's Jamie Foxx. You know what I'm saying? And everybody's a little different. Everyone's a little different. Man, Prodigy. I have the full run. I have the full run of Prodigy. If you haven't read Prodigy, oh my goodness, treat yourself. I enjoyed that read. I really did enjoy that read. So here, I want to give a shout out to these cat daddies right here. Two Brothers Comics. I want to give a shout out to these guys. So it was about 12:30. I was awakened by the screams of one of my children. And I couldn't go back to sleep. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just respond to some emails from you guys and reply to some comments and stuff like that, because I couldn't go back to sleep. And then there was an email from Tina. Tina sending me an email. She's like, I just saw this. And it was basically a post that these guys, Two Brothers Comics, had put up that were basically saying, hey, Regie is close to 10,000 subs. Let's sub him up. Let's get him there. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I absolutely appreciate that support. All of that stuff matters. You know what I'm saying? Someone that does something that does not have to do it, that matters. And so that was my treat, if you will, at like 12:30, 1 o'clock this morning. I was reading that message, and now you guys are here. So now I can officially say thank you very much for continuing to support the channel. And a couple of other people put up similar posts. But I want to thank all of you guys for doing that. So Kimball, treat yourself, brother. Treat yourself. Because Three Jokers, #2 is awesome. I'm not going to ruin it for you. Treat yourself. Sit down. Strap in. It's going to get feisty. Let me scroll through some of the comments here. Let me scroll through. Matt says, I'll still watch your video. I guess he doesn't agree with me, but thank you, brother. Thank you for not holding my opinions against me. Oh, man. What is this? Ooh, you know what? I'm going to have to say Will. Because Will has played in some roles where he has killed the game, right? I enjoyed him in the Men in Black stuff. Where was the one where he was playing with, I think, his actual son, and he was like in the bathroom and they were trying to get him out of the bathroom and he had his feet against the door? That was a very emotional movie that I thoroughly enjoyed. But then on the other side, you have, what was that? The Westwood. He's had some horrible movies. But he's also had a couple where I'm like, he was actually pretty good. Let's do the thing. Flip a coin, heads or tails. It'll be that. Just keep it super simple, because both of them, again, have had some bright spots, but neither one of them is the type of actor that you forget who they are. Will Smith with those ears is always Will Smith. And I have big ears too, so, you know. All right, let me scroll down through what you guys are talking about. Brother, I'm trying. Brother, I am trying to put in that work. I would say, honestly, man, both of them were really good. I don't know if I could pick between the two. I would say two definitely had some interesting moments where I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Really? There was a couple of shockers in there. Speaking of shocks and jolts, there were a couple of moments in there. So again, there we go. Pursuit of Happiness. I don't want to ruin it. But again, DC is doing the thing right now with Three Jokers. They really are doing the thing. So shout out to those guys over there. Will Smith says Matt Woods, Pursuit of Happiness. It was good. Ooh, Wild West. That was the one that was ungood. And that is a technical term. You can write that down. I wish I were an actor. He was. He was great in Ray. No one can take that away from him. No one can take that away from him. He definitely killed that one. So what's his comment? Hey man, new to your channel, love your energy. Have you heard about the Silk live action coming soon? So shout out to you, brother. Thank you for the kind words. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad you were able to make it here. I want to say we talked about some of the Silk live action stuff like a couple of weeks ago. Typically on the Ready, Set, Go preview show, which is a show that I do on Sunday night, I kind of hit some of the more interesting news that comes across my desk. And that's when I talk about that. And I want to say I talked about the Silk thing. We talked about the Madam Web thing and how they were trying to get a younger Madam Web. We did talk about it. We did talk about Silk because the director is an Asian American. I can't remember exactly what she is, but the director was essentially the same culture as what Silk is. And I did spend a little bit of time talking about that one for certain. And I will tell you, shout out to Randy Rasnake. Stay tuned because when we hit 10,000 subscribers, there is a giveaway. And as you guys know, I like to work in theme. So I just gave you the theme. If you didn't catch it, you might have to think on it, noodle on it, because there were some hints right there. There were some hints for you guys right there. Yeah, I did hear about Kamala Khan. I did hear about that one. I have not dug into the details about that one, to be honest with you. And I will get to that one. We may talk about it in another live show or something like that. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this thing up. So let me do a very, very quick recap for the folks that came in a little bit late. So there is news out there right now that Jamie Foxx is going to be reprising his role as Electro in the Spider-Man 3 movie that is going to be coming out at some point in the future when Voldemort has gone away and we can return to normalcy and actually be around people without having to worry. So this news was just came out. It actually came out in the Hollywood Reporter that they are in the final stages, I guess, in final talks about Jamie actually reprising his role in this movie that is going to be starring Tom Holland and is a joint collaboration between Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures. And again, this is pretty cool. It's pretty cool news. Jamie originally played Electro back in 2014 in Spider-Man 2. That movie did not do all that well, but that movie also did not have Kevin Feige. And so there are some high expectations that magic will be made. And getting back again, let me throw this up on real quick here. Giving a shout out to my man, Mikey Sutton. Mikey also talked about this on his website, geekocitymag.com. And essentially what he is hearkening back to is some news that he broke a year ago in which he said the various actors that have played Spider-Man in the last decade or so are all going to be coming together in one movie at some point. And the fact that the guy that plays J. Jonah Jameson is back, the fact that that Jamie Foxx is coming back as Electro is yet another sign that these characters are going to all come together at some point in some movie within the Spider-Verse. And there was also some news on Geekocity website that some aspects of the movies that are involving the Spider-Verse are actually set in the MCU as well. So a lot of overlap that is actually happening here, and only time will tell exactly how all of this is going to play out. With that, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to join me for this brief impromptu live stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, I want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up button. It's good for the algorithm. It basically sends the message to the Google machine that there is some good content that is coming out from this channel. If you missed the beginning of this live stream, definitely want to encourage you to go back and watch it and check it out. And stay tuned because in about an hour, I will be releasing another pre-recorded video. I don't remember what it was. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that it was good. If you guys need me, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Regie Collects, or you can send me an email to reggie@regiecollects.com. If you're feeling frisky, head over to my website, regiecollects.com. Check out the latest blog post from my man, Doug. He is dropping some knowledge and you do not want to miss it. Take care.